you doing today? This is Pastor Charles from Bux-Mont Baptist Church. I have my good friend here, deacon of the church, Joe Hando. He's a career firefighter and fire instructor. Thanks a lot for being on today, Joe.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Charles. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, and so, at the church, we want to bless the community. We want to give you good, important information for you to be for you to be safe and for you to be well. And during the holidays, there's a lot of things that happen. I think every year I always hear of a fire happening, or at least one by somebody I know or somebody we're close to, where, something happens and a fire breaks out over the holidays and families are put in distress. So we wanted to do an interview with Joe today so he could give us some good fire safety advice on what to do around the holidays. So, Joe, what are some things that people can do related to fire safety as they prepare for the holidays?
One of the biggest things we try to really be proponent about is Christmas tree safety. If you buy your own Christmas tree, like a live tree, it's really a dead tree when you buy it, but it's a live tree, and there's some important things. Always try to get where the needles are really green or kind of soft. You don't want a tree where you shake it and the needles all fall off. When you get the tree home, you want to cut off about 2 inches off of the stump part, and that'll allow the tree, when you put it in your stand and you fill the stand up with water, it would allow the tree to suck the water up and try to keep the tree fresh, and more important, keep it green. You also want to make sure you water the tree every day. That's a good job for if you have a child or someone that's kind of dependable. They can get a little bucket and fill the reservoir in the tree stand up with water. You want to make sure you use lights that are safe for trees. Long time ago, like in the 1800s, they used to put candles on the trees. I don't recommend that. Unless you got really good fire insurance. So if you have lights on your tree, that's good. They have LED lights now that are really beneficial and really look sharp on your tree. And the most important thing is when you're getting ready to go to bed, make sure you turn the lights off or have your tree lights on a timer.
That's some good stuff related to tree safety. I know a lot of folks, back in the day, used to go out there and cut down the tree yourself, so you'd make sure it's really fresh and alive. But nowadays, with stopping at different places and picking up trees, oftentimes they can be a little bit more dead than others. And I'll tell you what, when I used to go hiking and camping a lot, what I would do for some fire starter is get some pine needles on the ground, and that would just light up real quick, start a fire real easy. So being safe with Christmas trees are definitely a good piece of advice. What are some other types of mistakes that people make just related to general fire safety and issues in the house where they should be aware of and be a little bit more careful on?
One of the biggest things that we really are concerned about is nowadays, people are really into odorous candles. And unfortunately, December is the highest month for home fires related to candles. And the two highest days for candle fires in the home are on Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day.
Wow.
There's about 23 home fires that are reported to authorities every day relating to candles. So if you have to use candles, they have LED candles. You're going to hear me talk about LEDs quite a bit, but LED candles are nice. They also give off a scent. But if you have to use real candles, make sure they're not near a place that's drafty or near combustible materials. Don't ever put a candle in the back of a toilet. It's too easy for people to turn around and to brush the fire away. Don't ever put a candle on a windowsill. The curtains blow around and they can be really combustible and catch a fire. But the most important thing with candle safety is when you leave the room to extinguish the candle, either by putting the top back on or using a candle stuffer. At last resort, if you need to blow the candle out, you can do that. But candle safety is really important around the holidays, especially if you have guests or small members visitors that may come with you that are usually fascinated by candles.
Wow, that's interesting. I would have never thought December is the most common month for candle fires, but it makes sense. You know, people doing Advent, lighting candles.
Mm.
There's even those candles now that have as you said, the different fragrances, and they have Christmas cookie fragrance I've seen in the store, or pine, or things like that. So I know a lot of folks who enjoy those, and we do as well. So that's some great advice. Uh, every year I hear stories that scare me about electrical fires.
Mm.
You know, electrical fires, I think it's something that most of us don't think about. Most of us don't have the background in terms of, electrical wiring, or even good outlet safety, or protocols or procedures. Is there anything type of advice that you could provide people related to, electrical fires or electrical safety?
Yeah, I got two areas. I'll talk about the inside first, and then maybe we could talk about outdoor lighting a little bit. Some things that you got to remember is when you have big appliances at your house that are all going to work really hard over the holidays, like your dishwasher or your refrigerator and your stove and your freezer, all those things should plug directly into the wall outlet. None of them should be running on extension cords. Extension cords are really for temporary wiring for maybe a one-time use or something like that. You want to make sure your electricity is okay. Make sure your outlets are nice and snug. When you put something in, it should never spark. If it sparks, something's wrong. You need to call an electrician to come out and most often replace the outlet. If you have light bulbs, LEDs, we just had a church survey done from Pico for switching over to LED lighting. But your electric light bulbs should have the correct wattage. You don't want to overdo the wattage and then the bulb will get too hot, especially with incandescent lighting. So it's really important that you follow some basic safety tips. When you unplug something, don't pull by the wire, pull by the plug. Especially if you're in a rush, try to not to pull by the wire, because that really loosens the plug up. And when you go to plug in, it may not charge or have a good electric connection for whatever you're trying to plug in. So keep things away from electrical, like combustibles and different things like that, but kind of get the idea.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the outside lighting, and now's a big time of year for people to do Christmas lights and things like that. Anything specific related to maybe Christmas lights or things outside the house?
Yes. I just made a purchase this past week from my sister, my oldest sister, and she lives on a big place, but she wanted outdoor Christmas lights that were battery operated. And I really didn't think there was such a thing, but there really is. And so if that works for you, if you want to put Christmas lights up someplace that does not have electricity, you can use battery operated lights. And there's also solar lights on strings you can get. But if you want to need to use electricity outside, and this would be a time where you might need to use an extension cord because it's going to be a temporary setup. Your extension cord and your lights need to have something called a UL label on it. And that's Underwriters Laboratory, and they certify that particular item could be used outside. With lights, there's outside lights, there's inside lights, and there's also combination inside-outside. But it's not recommended to use inside lights outside, and they probably will not have a UL label on them for outdoor use. If you got to stretch things, make sure you follow the directions on the carton or label. Have not to string lights too many strings together. Most of the times it'll tell you exactly how many strings of light you can string together. And just like the Christmas tree lights, make sure you have a timer on the outside lights or turn the lights out when you go to the bed. A timer works really nice, and most of the battery operated ones and solar are usually on for 8 hours and then off for 16. So just be really careful and don't overload your outlets, and don't try to make it, if you have one outlet, don't plug like 9 things in there just because you can put in a surge protector strip in there. It's not really designed to have all that wattage from the light bulbs outside. So just be really careful.
Great advice. Thanks, Joe. It's very important to keep in mind. There's some houses around the area that are real beautiful and do a great job. I'm sure they upgraded their electrical panels or something to handle all those lights that they have. You previously shared with me, Joe, that one of the biggest causes of fires in a home is the HVAC systems, the heating equipment.
Mm.
And, this is the type of year where many of us are kicking on our systems or have already kicked on our systems after being dormant. Any advice related to HVAC systems, heating systems, and how to prevent fires related to them?
Sure, Charles, and that's a really good segue into our next thing, is heating equipment. And so before you really turn your heat on, and it's probably a little late now to think about it, but you should have your heating service or your company or your HVAC system serviced by somebody that's professionally to do that. Either they can come out in the spring or fall or whenever when it works for you, but somebody should come out and look over your heating system, make sure it's up to snuff, and change the filters and maybe clean it out or vacuum the ducts out, or if you have a gas-fired furnace, like for oil or natural gas or even propane, the burners, the jets can be all cleaned out, and that way your furnace is operating to the peak efficiency. The really thing to remember is not to be putting a lot of storage like where your vents are. And that really goes back to our first point, your Christmas tree. You don't want to put your Christmas tree near a hot air vent because that's going to help dry the Christmas tree out, which is no good. So you want to make sure if you have a type of furnace in your house that burns a liquid or a gas, it produces carbon monoxide. And you really need to have a CO detector in your house. You detect that because that's an odorless and colorless gas that is deadly and it comes most often from improperly vented stoves and heating equipment.
Great. Good advice, Joe. Thanks a lot. Really helpful tips for people to be safe during the holidays, just in general. Is there anything else related to fire safety? You've been a career firefighter. I know you teach now as well, or future firefighters, and also serve in a local department. So really grateful for that service to the community. I enjoy hearing the different stories you have about different things happening to folks and mistakes that have been made to fire safety and accidents that have happened. Anything that you wanted to share, any other advice or tips that people should be aware of related to fire safety?
Two things I'd like to share, Charles, and one we really heard quite a bit about in the last month was when you change your clocks, you change your smoke detector batteries. So that's really important, especially if you're having guests come over for the holidays. They may not be quite as aware of your house's layout. And one of the things you can do is check your smoke detectors before they come. Another thing is something called Operation Edith. That's exit drills in the home. You can practice that and have a meeting place and explain that to your guests, where if the smoke alarms go off in the middle of the night, you should roll out of bed and check the door with your hand. If it's hot, find another way out of the room. If it's not hot, open the door slowly, and then you can make your way outside to the meeting place if you have that. That's one really strong, important thing to have, is check your smoke detectors. And almost anymore when you buy smoke detectors, they come with a 10-year battery that's unable to be removed. So like on Christmas Day and you forgot to buy the right kind of batteries, no taking it out of smoke detectors in the future. So try not to do that. And so smoke detectors are really important at the holidays. And the other thing is, right now, when you're watching this, after you get done, whether you're going to have guests or not guests or family or friends over, you really need to know where your fire extinguisher is. And once you get the fire extinguisher, have a look at it. It's rated for certain types of fires. Most home fire extinguishers are A, B, C. A is for Class A materials, are wood and paper, things that leave an ash, most often like carpet and furniture and sofas and all that. That's stuff that leads to ash, so that's most often Class A. Class B is for flammable and combustible liquids and gases. So like propane or gasoline or diesel fuel, oil, or chicken or turkey frying oil. That would be a flammable or combustible liquid. And Class C is energized electrical equipment. Anything that's energized that plugs into the wall, catches on fire, that'd be Class C. So if you had a combination fire extinguisher for classes A, B, and C, that would be really good for your home. They make nice gifts at big box stores like Lowe's and places like that. You can get a fire extinguisher, a flashlight, and a smoke detector for about $35, which makes a really nice gift. So you find the fire extinguisher and you say, now what do I do now? Well, there's a very easy acronym to help you remember to use fire extinguishers safely, and it's PASS. P-A-S-S. PASS stands for pull the pin. You might have to twist it a little bit to get it out. It has like a zip tie on there, but a little less rugged. So you pull the pin out, you want to squeeze the handle, and then you want to grab a hold of the nozzle and aim it. As if it's a hose, you want to aim it at the base of the fire. You want to sweep it back and forth, and that's it. Pull the pin, aim the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and sweep it back and forth at the base of the fire. If the fire goes out, great. If the fire doesn't go out, drop the fire extinguisher and run outside. But make sure you sound the alarm. Call 911 from outside. Once you're outside, don't go back in, no matter what. If you have animals, if you left the door open, they will definitely be coming out. So just keep that in mind, and a little preparation now can really make you have a really nice fire safe and healthy holidays.
Yeah, that's great advice, Joe. Making sure batteries are inside our fire alarms, have fire extinguishers as well. I know you've mentioned several times on the CO2, put that in the right places. How many fire extinguishers do you recommend a house have?
Well, that's a really good question, Charles, but I want to back up before we get to fire extinguishers. The National Fire Protection Association recommended you have one smoke detector on every level. So if you have a 1.5 stories house, you should have 1 or 2 smoke detectors. I always like to say the more smoke detectors, the better. In our house, we got like 9 smoke detectors. Some of them are interconnected, which means when one goes off, they all go off. We have some that are standalones. But I like to say a smoke detector in at least every bedroom and on every floor. So that would be smoke detectors. But for fire extinguishers, if you have 1 for every section of your house, that should be fine. If you have a 2-story house, you have 2 fire extinguishers. Most often they're used in the kitchen or in the workshop or garage area. So unfortunately to say, I have about 5 fire extinguishers at my house, and they're all around, so you never have to go very far. So if you need to use a fire extinguisher, remember, use the fire extinguisher. Look it over now before you need it. Make sure you have the right kind, and then don't keep it under the sink or in a cabinet, because when somebody else is cooking and something goes wrong, they're not going to think to look there. If you can put it on the counter or hang it on the wall, that'd be much better in your house, and also in your garage or in your basement, your workshop areas. If you could hang it up where people can see it and remember where it is, that'd be better for fire extinguisher safety.
Great. Great. Thanks so much, Joe. Greatly appreciate the advice that you're blessing people with. And please, we want you to be safe. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be well. At Bux-Mont Baptist Church, we also want to help you grow in your faith or grow to learn who God is and what he's done for you. So if you have any questions, if there's anything we could ever do to help you out, please reach out to us. We want to be a blessing to you, and we want to help you any way we can. So thanks a lot for watching, and thanks again, Joe, for being on today.
You're quite welcome, Charles.